Hey guys, good morning. I wanted to talk about Netflix and their earnings because they absolutely killed the actual earnings. They had a weird guidance, and that's something why I'm still a little bit bearish. But they absolutely destroyed their earnings. They did a really fantastic job. I think the expected really wasn't on their revenue, but it was more on their subscribers. Wow, I can't believe I just lost my voice there a little bit. Um, the revenue wasn't really that important on the what is it called on the money side, right? But it was actually extremely important on their actual subscriber count. So they actually had expected a subscriber count increase of 1 million. They actually had a 2.5 million increase in subs, which I thought it was super weird because I've been not watching Netflix and not really doing anything with Netflix for a while now. So I'm extremely surprised. It was probably maybe it was gonna be maybe it was that Dahmer documentary that brought everybody into Netflix to watch the show. But as of right now, you skyrocketed about 15% after hours, and your pre-market trading at a 271. So this is just a really good example of what happens when everybody is expecting one thing, right? They actually, people were expecting one like the absolute worst for Netflix, and they actually ended up not only beating, but they actually ended up beating by like 150% of what the expected was. Um, you have a huge gap here, right? That ended up happening on Netflix a while back. After their earnings from 247 all the way up to 333. So again, they can definitely see a nice. They can definitely see, and they're definitely starting to fill this gap. And the next gap up fill is going to be at the top is going to be 333, right? They're already basically going to gap up from 248 up to 271. I do think that this is going to be all given back eventually. So I do expect Netflix to drop back to 248. So interested in picking up Netflix at least for the next quarter or so would not be, I would not be, I'd be perfectly fine picking up some Netflix shares and then holding it. But again, considering the fact that it does drop back to 248, right? I would not pick up anything else. And right now, I want to see how Netflix actually reacts on these violent VCs, because we actually are closing a violent VC on the weekly this week. More than likely, if we stay around this 270 level, there's a really good chance I think we can possibly run all the way back up to 333 first, fill that gap, and then come back all the way down. But again, it really depends, because recently on recent VCs around this level, you've actually pushed extremely hard, right? And then you keep going. But again, this was all during a huge bullish market move, right? But again, it does look like Netflix likes moving a lot on these VCs. And by VCs, I mean you have the stochastic, relatively on the high side, and you create a bull trigger on my indicators, right? So it does look like Netflix has a history of actually doing that, and it likes doing that, right? You see this historical push of 325, 351, and then it still goes up like another, a couple of points, right? And again, historically it likes doing that, right? So I would not, I would be completely okay if it closes this week. I would wait for the end of the week to see how this closes, but if it does look like it's going to be closing a bullish week, I would probably buy maybe 2 week out calls for Netflix, because I think it'll still push maybe to like $300 sometime next week. And again, I think that Netflix, right, it created its own floor down here. We can probably add some new support right here, like right there. Support, actually, I'll do it here. We'll add support there. What the heck is that? Let me see. Horizontal, there we go. We'll add some pretty decent support there. You have support there. You now have support back here, around that level, right? And then you definitely have resistance at that gap right there. And obviously that got broken right here, right? But after that, you got like nothing. There's no more resistance from, 251 to essentially that top of the gap at 333, right? You really have no resistance around that level. I mean, you have some here on this weekly, like 295. So I mean, this was from back, all this resistance is back from, we'll do this like there, 295, back from, I don't know, like 2020 and stuff. So you might actually keep pushing towards there. You actually have more resistance. Like I'll do maybe like 319 or so. Nah, I'll leave the 295, which is the 300, roughly the 300 level, right? So you do have some more resistance up here. You might actually keep pushing a little bit harder, maybe next week, or like in the next 2 weeks, 270 to to 295. So I would definitely be okay with longing Netflix, even though the market drops. I would personally be fine, longing Netflix to like 295 and then selling everything out, right? It just makes sense. Or even just taking a swing trade towards 295 seems likely. But as of right now, I can definitely see Netflix having a bullish sentiment towards next earnings, right? I can definitely see it running up towards next earnings. So definitely bullish sentiment on Netflix for the next 3-4 months or so till the next earnings report, and it does look like we're gonna keep. It does look like we're gonna keep running up. I would not be surprised, like I said, to see 295 by next week. And this is just a good example of what to expect for example, Snapchat or Google, Microsoft, Apple, all the big tech companies that might definitely surprise you to the upside. So I'd say for earnings, be very safe, be very careful. Everybody thought Netflix was going to shit the bed. They did 150% better than everybody thought. I would probably stay away from earnings, or even after this, I'd probably just do calls for every single earnings report and then just kind of see what hits, just as a lotto plays, I guess. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.